Making life harder for yourself and attempting ridiculous challenges is one of the most fun things you can do in Football Manager. Every year, people find ways to innovate and come up with new challenges to try, so you'll never be short of options. With that being said, this video is going to give you the best FM23 challenge save ideas for you to try out. First up, we've got the Pentagon challenge, which might well be the hardest challenge on the entirety of our list. And basically what you're required to do is go on to win the Confederations Continental Championship in all 5 of the available continents in the game. Now the catch here is that you've got to start as unemployed with no prior experience whatsoever. No coaching badges, Sunday League footballer experience, you're genuinely starting from rock bottom. So the way you'll probably want to do this is go for one of the lesser reputable competitions such as the Asian Champions League or the African Champions League. Go to one of those continents and find a team, then go on to win the Confederations Continental Championship for that continent. Also, if you want to make the challenge even harder for yourself, you can expand it by including the Oceania Champions League, which is downloadable in the Steam Workshop. Next up, we have the Dafuge challenge, which is essentially a rags to riches deal. Whichever country you want to manage in, go to their lowest league and select one of the teams to take over. In this save, you're only going to be able to stick with that one club, and you've got to take them all the way to the first division of their respective country. This is really going to test your ability to work with a very small budget and still be successful. Also, a couple more rules for this challenge is that you have to start with no coaching badges and only Sunday League footballer experience. Players can only be signed if you can scout them or if they're a free agent that you can invite on a trial. Finally, you must remain at the same club for the entire save, and the only reason you can leave that club is if you're sacked. And if this happens, you've got to go back to another club at the bottom of the pyramid and start all over again. Now for a challenge that's almost the polar opposite of the Dafuge challenge, we have the Journeyman challenge. Instead of taking one singular club to domestic and continental glory, you're going to be going to several different clubs to achieve this. Start unemployed with no coaching badges and only Sunday League footballer experience, and take the first job that is available or the first one that's offered to you. The main rule here is that you cannot apply for other jobs. You've simply got to let your results do the talking and wait for offers to come in. Eventually, the aim is to end up in the top flight of whichever country you've taken over in and win every single honour there is. Next up is the Homegrown challenge, which is essentially what Athletic Bilbao are in real life. So if you didn't know, Athletic Bilbao only sign players from the Basque region, which is the region where the club is based, which limits the amount of talent they have at their disposal a lot. Somehow, despite this, they've still had a very lucrative history as a club, so this challenge is trying to emulate that. So for an example, if you were to take over a team like West Brom, you could only sign players from the Black Country region. So the only way that you're actually restricted is that every player in your matchday squad must have been born within the predefined locality. But if you want to make it a lot harder for yourself, you can extend these same restrictions to your backroom staff as well. Now it's time for one of my favourite challenges on the game, which is the Moneyball challenge. This revolutionary technique of finding undervalued players in less sought after leagues then competing with some of the big boys of the league was popularised by Oakland Athletic baseball team. What they did is they looked at undervalued players that were actually performing really well in game but not necessarily winning loads of matches with their team. Then they'd sign them for a very small price and go on to still compete with some of the biggest franchises in the sport like the New York Yankees. Brentford are the most mainstream team to have adopted this method, with owner Matthew Benham consistently signing undervalued talent on a shoestring budget to then sell them on for major profit when they start to hit their full potential. Benham took over Brentford when they were in League 2 and in a lot of debt, and took them all the way up to the Premier League with this exact strategy. So your goal in this challenge is going to be exactly that. Take a team from a lower division and only sign players solely based off their performances using the Data Hub feature. This allows you to look at the distance covered per game, the XG that they've accrued, the pass completion percentage, and all that good stuff. What you can't use in this challenge is any attributes. There's actually a skin pack that you can download from Steam that will disable all attributes altogether, so if you want to make sure that you don't cheat on this challenge, then go ahead and download that. The main aim of this challenge is to go on to win the most prestigious domestic honours and the continental honours in whichever country you've chosen to take over in. If you want a challenge that has you jumping around from team to team across the entirety of Europe, then you'll want to go for the Jose Mourinho challenge. This one's pretty simple. In every single season that you manage in, you have to finish in the top 3 teams for goals conceded. Then you also have to win a Champions League with 2 separate clubs from 2 different countries. Finally, you've got to win a domestic title in 4 of Europe's major leagues, so England, Spain, Italy, Germany, France, Portugal, and Holland. And then the last requirement is that you can never stay at one club for more than 3 seasons. Now onto my favourite challenge of the entire video, and it's the Leicester City challenge, and the reason I love it so much is because I am indeed a Leicester City fan. What you're going to need to do to fulfill this challenge is start with a club that has just been relegated to League One. Then you've got the pretty easy task of going on to win the Premier League within 8 years. Another restriction is that you can't spend more than £100 million on incoming players over the course of the entire challenge. This is to emulate the signings of Kante, Vardy and Mahrez, who are all players that we signed for extremely low costs who went on to achieve great things for us. Then, as a little bonus restriction, you can try and have at least one registered squad member that was present during the League One campaign, so this person is going to act as your Andy King. And finally, we have the Mike Bassett challenge, which might just be the most fun challenge of all. The restrictions here is that you have to start in the lower leagues of England and play exclusively 4-4-2 for your entire career. Your ultimate goal is to make your way up the leagues until you eventually end up managing England. Some fun additional restrictions that you can put on yourself is that you always have to play with a big man little man partnership up top, play 2 enforcers in the middle of the park like Vinnie Jones, then use tricky wingers to get the balls into the box. Also, as a little bonus challenge, if you're able to manage Norwich City at some point in your career, then you've definitely 100%ed this challenge. If this video gave you a new challenge idea, you should check out our other Football Manager 23 content on screen now.